So hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So till now we have completed our 4 tutorials. So this is the tutorial 5. So in the previous video we discussed about different aggregate functions, or you can say multiple row functions. They were like count, max, min, sum, average. So we performed various queries on aggregate functions. So this is the tutorial 5. So in this video we will discuss about the group by and the having clause. So generally, when we use aggregate functions, we used a clause which is known as group by and having with the aggregate functions to perform the complex queries. So I will show you first in Notepad. So the agenda of this video is to discuss mainly about the group by function and its uses, and we will also learn about the having clause which is used with group by to perform complex queries on aggregate functions. So again we will perform some functions like min, max, average. We also did this in the previous tutorial, but as a revision, and we need to perform group by on the aggregate functions, so we will again execute commands of aggregate functions in this video also. So guys, please watch till the end, and if you haven't watched the first 4 tutorials of my series, so please watch and then come to this video. So now we will again move to the MySQL client. So I have already created the table. I created a table which was named as AGG in the tutorial 4. So we will again use that table only. So to use that table, you just need to write the database name. The database name was use R semicolon. So you can see database change. And if you want to see our table name was select star from AGG. So if we run this, so this is the table, code name, these are the columns. So we will again perform queries on this column only. So first I will write a very basic query, like if I want my type and my sum of quantity from my table AGG. So if we run this, you can see type school and sum of quantity. But then you will say that type are of school, office, sports. So there are total 3 different types. But when we are displaying type, it is only returning type and the quantity of the sum. So this is a, like you can say why it is not returning office and sports. So we can perform this query by using the group by clause. So if I write like select type, again we will write sum of quantity from AGG. So we wrote this query previously also. We just need to write a group by and group by, and we need to group our columns in the with the type column. So what group by will do, it will just group all the same values into the summary rows. Like if we want to find, I am giving an example, like if we want to find the number of customers in each country, so we can do it by group by function. So group by will be like, it will be used with only the aggregate functions only, which we discussed, like count, max, min, sum. So where here we are using sum of quantity, and I want my type column to be grouped. So you just need to write the column name, and if we run this, so now you can see now school is also displaying, office, sports, and the sum of quantity is also displaying. Previously only school was displaying, but here we used group by clause and we grouped our values of the type column. So now you can see the output is correct. So this is a advanced use of group by. It will group all the columns, and if you want, if I say that select, I say select code and sum of quantity from my table AGG, but this time I want my query, like if I want my code column to be grouped. Previously we grouped that type column, but this time I want my values to be grouped of the column which is code. So you just need to write group by, and the column name which I wrote is code. So if we run this, so you can see now the code column is grouped and it will return the sum of quantity of each column. And again, if we want, like if we don't use group by, and like if I remove this and I run just this query, so you can again see it will just return the first code, which is the 1001, like it was returning the type school, which was first. So if we want our whole columns to be grouped, so we need to use group by code. So you can say here. And one important thing, you can also like you can also say, this is a trick. The column which you write first, you will put that column only into group by. Like I wrote code here, so you just need to put group by and code, the column name. And like I did select type here, so this is my first column, so I will put my group by, like I will put my column type only in my group by. So this is a trick. If you get confused that which column you need to use in group by, so you can always remember that the column which you select as the first, it you will need to put that column only in the group by. So now we can execute some more queries. Like if I say that I want my type, select type, and like any query, like any random, I am like I am want minimum of my margin column, maximum of my margin, and average of margin. So we will do all the aggregate functions again. Like if I say I want min of my margin, then I want max of my margin column, then I also want average of my margin column. So again we need from agg group by, and I again want my values to be grouped of my type column. So here also we have written the first column is type, so we will again write group by type to group the values. And if we see here, you can see the output, it is returning the type and all the values are grouped. Then it is returning the min of margin. These are the minimum value of my margin column. You can see here the minimum values are 2 2 2, so it will return 2 2 2 3, and max of margin 4 is returning, and then this is the average. So this is a very, like, group by is helping us to create a very discriminative tables. So if I say now that I want my type again, but this time I want my columns to be count, so we can use count star abstract. And if I run this from agg, and if I run just this query, so it will return the count of the number of columns. But what I want my grouped columns to be in the count function. So again we need to use group by, column name is type, and if I run this, so now you can see all my type values are grouped, and the count of each column is returning. Like school is appearing 2 times, office is appearing 1 time, sports is appearing 2 times. If you want to see the table again, we will show you the table. Oh, I actually wrote 8 select star from agg. So you can say school is appearing 2 times, sports is appearing 2 times. So school is appearing 2 times. In the count, it will count the values of the type sports also 2, and office is 1. So when we are not using group by, it was just returning the school and the total count values. But we want our type column to be grouped properly, so we need to use group by type. It will group all the values of the type column. So we will see some more queries. Like if I want my name and maximum cost from my table agg, and you can also say like I also want average of my cost, and you can add more conditions, like I also want min of margin. We are extracting data from different columns, so you get a better explanation. And if I say from table name, and again I want my values to be grouped, but this time not by type. You can say I have written name, so this is the first column which I wrote, so I need to give now group by name. If I run this, you can say name is returned, maximum of cost of each name is returned, the average of cost of each the column is returned, and minimum of the margin of my each column of my table agg is returned. So these are the values which are grouped by the name. You can say the name column. So we can again write like if I want now my code, and again some random value, like I want some of my quantity. I am just executing random queries. so that you get a better idea like what is happening. So yeah, from my table group, so now you can see that the first column which I chose is code. So again we need to give code column only in my group by clause, and if I run this, see what's the output. So yeah, code is returning, sum of all the quantities is returning, and count of each size column. You can see the count of each size column is returning like 1 1 1, all are 1, and code column is grouped by. So this is the use of group by. So we have executed many queries of group by. So let's say that like if we do queries and if we want conditions like my margin is greater than 2, or you can say my average is less than 3. So how can we do that in the simple queries like in the single row functions which we previously did in the tutorial 1 and tutorial 2. So in the single row functions we are using a clause which is known as where. So we can use where clause easily for the conditions we want. But if we use the aggregate functions, or you can say the multiple row functions, so can we use where clause here also? So you can't use where, we need to use a clause which is known as having, and having is mostly used with the aggregate functions only like sum, max, min, count, average. So if we use where conditions in the aggregate functions, it will simply throw an error. So you need to only use having and group by with aggregate functions. So we have done some simple queries. So now if I want some conditions in my queries, so how can I do that? So again, like I write, I want my type, and if I say sum of my quantity column. And guys, one more thing also, like I am writing these queries. So some people pinned me on my LinkedIn and asked that if we write like sum in capital or sum in small letters, so does it matter? So I also told this in my previous tutorials that MySQL is purely a case sensitive language. So it will not depend like if you are giving lowercase letters or if you are giving uppercase letters. You can give any letter. Like if I write sum in, like if you say capital letters, previously we wrote all the queries in small letters, and again if I run from agg select type, I am just writing a, yes, you can see, so type and sum of quantity is returning. So this is not a compulsion that you should use small letters or capital letters. MySQL is a case sensitive language, so you are very, like it is very comfortable language and a comfortable syntax also. So now we will import some having by clause. So if I say I want some of my column name is quantity, from my table is again agg, and I want all the values to be grouped from my type column. So again we write group by type, and if I run just this query, so see, let's what the output. Yeah, so the output is like type is returned, school, office, sports, and the sum of quantity of each of the column is returned. But now if I say that I want a condition, and the condition is that the column should be returned, but the sum of quantity should be greater than 1000. So how can we do this? So you can use having here. I will write group by type and having sum of quantity greater than 1000, and if I run this, so you can see only the only the sum of quantities which are greater than 1000 are displaying. So this is a use of having, like I wrote group by type, till this, and that then we just need to write the having clause and the sum of quantity. Sum of quantity is the aggregate column, or you can say aggregate function which we used is greater than 1000. So this is how you can use the aggregate function with having clause. So we will again write some queries of having also. so that you get a better idea. If I say like I want again sum of my what quantity column, okay, from my table AGG, where from AGG group by type, group by group by type, and this time I want that a condition like my margin should be greater than 2, or you can say 1. So how can I do that? And the margin should be average. So you can again use the having clause here, like if I say having average of my margin column, it should be greater than 1. So if I run this, yeah, you can see. So again we will see first the table so that we can understand the output. So yeah, you can see. So this is returning the type sum of quantity. You can see sum of quantity from our table where the type, like you can see where my average margin is strictly greater than 1. So you can see the average margin is greater than only in 3, like the school, this is the school, office, and the sports column. So these are the columns. So this is what this is like the average command is doing. So we can use average, like we can use having with all functions, sum, max, min, count, average. So we will run like I want type of some quantity, and if I say I also want like my average of margin, or you can say sum of my size column from AGG group by type, okay, and if we just run this, yeah, so this is the output, sum of quantity, average of margin, sum of size, and the type column is grouped. So I want a condition in this also that the size should be greater than, you can say 10, the sum of the size. So again we can just put a query like group by type having sum of my size greater than 10. So if we run this, so you can see there are total two columns, school and sports, which are having sum of my size column greater than 10. So it will display the sum of quantity, average of margin, and those column whose size is greater than 10. It will not display all the columns. So this is what if we are giving the conditions in the aggregate functions or the multiple row functions. So our time would be also saved, like you can say the computational time will also be saved. So now I will show you a complex query. So if I say that I want type my sum of quantity and from AGG. So if I run just this query, you can see the output. And so I will write a complex query now from AGG. So guys, an important note here that we can't use where clause in the aggregate functions. I told you this previously also. We can use having function, having clause in the aggregate functions. So if I say that select type comma sum of quantity from where, if I say that where size is not equal to 7, if I run this, yeah, so you can see again yeah, so there are total 6 7 7, these are the size columns, but I need the columns whose size is not equal to 7. So it will just display only a column which is school and the sum of quantity. So here I don't use group by clause, so we can use where clause. But if I also put a group by clause in this condition, so then we can't use where. We need to use having with our conditions. So if I say like group by where size group by, if I say type and if I run this, so you can see these are the group by values of the type column. But if I say if I want to put a condition more that my sum, or you can say the sum of my quantity column should be greater than 700. So now I can't put a where clause condition because I need to use like I need to use the aggregate function. Sum is aggregate function. So with the aggregate functions, or you can say multiple row functions, we can't use where clause. So now we need to use the having clause. So if I say like I want type of some quantity and group of type. Okay, so first I will tell you. So this query is just, you can say it is just checking the individual rows. But if we want that are like if I say group by type, and I want a condition like having sum, I told you sum of quantity greater than 700. This is what I told you. If I run this, yeah, you can see it is perfectly running. So this condition from where we are using with normally, but if we are using aggregate function sum of quantity, we need to use having clause only. We can't use where clause. So this function is just checking the individual rows, but this function will check all the rows because it is a multiple row functions, and multiple row functions will work on a multiple values to return a single value. So this is the output. You can also see single values are returned, sum of quantity which are greater than 700. So this is an important note that we can't use where clause with the aggregate functions. We just need to use having clause only with the multiple row functions or the aggregate functions. So this is what I am telling you from this query. So you should remember this point, and we can run more queries to get a deep idea of the having clause and the group by clause. So if I say I want my type randomly, I want min of my margin column, minimum of margin. I also want maximum of my margin column, and if I say I also want my average of my margin column, and if you want to put more conditions like I also want sum, you can say sum of my quantity column, and I will use all the aggregate functions in this query. So min is used, max is used, average is used, so count is remaining. We will also use count. We can sum up all the aggregate functions in this query. So if I say I want count of my name column, the column name is name na? Yeah, name from the table name is AGG, and I want a condition that my size should be only in 6 and 7. I selected the size, so you can see the size should be only in 6 and 7. You can say 1, 2, 3. There are total 3 columns whose size in 6 and 7. So we can write where, and I told you in the part 2 and part 1 we can use the operator, or you can say keyword, which is called as in for the list. So I will use that where I want my size strictly in, you can say 6 comma 7 only. Okay, 6 comma 7, and then I need to group my values again, and I need to group them group by of the type column, and again I will put a condition having, you can say that I want a condition that my min of margin column, minimum of margin column is greater than 1. So hopefully this query will run. Yeah, this is running. So in this query we learnt about all the aggregate functions singly. So I will tell you what this is doing. So we are just selecting a type, and we need to group all the values based on a type column only. So you can say school office, then you will return the min of margin, you will return the maximum of our margin, average of our margin, sum of my all the quantity columns, and then we need to count the names like school of 2 names, office of 1 name, and I have also put it a condition where my size is in only 6 and 7. So that's why school and office is only returning. Sports column is not there. You can see here yeah, so you can see that sports size is 8, and here also sports size is 9. Only school office and school are having a size of 6. So that's why the sports column is not displaying, because its size is 8 and 9. And I have put a condition that my size should be in 6 and 7 only. This is the list based condition. So that's why sports is not visible. And you can see also that I have put grouped my values on the basis of my type column, and the condition I have put here is the min of my margin, the minimum of my margin should be greater than 1. So this is what this is returning. You can say that only 2 are returning. So this is the complex query where I have used all the aggregate functions. I have also shown you the use of the having clause, and so anything is left. So I don't think anything is left in this video. So now we have implemented all the single row functions, all the multiple row functions, and the use of the multiple row functions with group by having. So now we got a clear idea of all these functions. So this is all for this video. We will discuss constraints, like different constraint used in MySQL, in the upcoming tutorial. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe and share among your friends. So take care, bye bye.